Welcome back to episode 3 of Randall Vision. I am your host, Randall, and I've got some exciting news. In this episode, we will be digging into a topic with substance. Up until this point, it's essentially been preamble, and today we're actually going to dive in and cover some of the topics that I want to express with this channel here. Unfortunately, this involves me doing some more reading to the camera. What I will be reading is an essay that I had written for a zine called Liar, published by Joseph Kraft. It was released a few years back, and I was unable to obtain my own copy, which I'm a little disappointed about, but I still have the essay that I provided for that zine, and here we go. So the title of the essay is "The Following is Full of Lies." The value of honesty is the most important thing I have learned in my lifetime. Morality has been established in various ways across a myriad of cultures. At their best, these moralities are arbitrary. At their worst, they are insular monoliths which propagate systemic oppression. Moralities are bullshit, whereas honesty is the singular most advantageous guiding principle a person could apply to living. To lie is to betray the nature of our existence. Consider 3 basic divisions of consciousness: lucid waking life, dream state, and altered states of consciousness as obtained through drugs, meditation, etc. While dreaming, reality is flexible and consequences vanish upon waking. While in an altered state of consciousness, there are varying degrees of flexibility to reality dependent upon the type and quantity of the substances ingested. Unlike with dreams, there will most likely be some sort of consequence to be dealt with upon returning to a lucid state. Our day-to-day waking life is what it is. Our environment appears to adhere to principles and/or laws that have been outlined by science. We are generally able to predict the consequences of our actions based upon this consistency. That things are what they are is what defines this world that our lucid waking consciousness perceives. Any misrepresentation of things are what they are forsakes the very essence of what defines the world in which we live. There are less abstract reasons as to why honesty has value. The establishment of credibility is achieved by displaying a pattern of honesty over a prolonged period of time. Once credibility is obtained, social interactions become more simple. It is far easier to cooperate with or influence people who trust you as opposed to strangers or someone who distrusts you. The parable of the boy who cried wolf stands as a worst-case scenario of the lack of credibility. Honesty, once manifested as credibility, becomes a powerful tool. Abiding an honest lifestyle has other byproducts. When making decisions in life, if you are coming from the perspective of being willing to disclose any and all of your actions to anyone who may ask, you are leading an honest life. The results are liberating. There is an accompanying peace of mind that works wonders for your mental health. This also translates into physical benefits. Stress, anxiety, and guilt cause a significant strain on an individual's constitution. Abstaining from lies frees oneself from all of the associated discomfort. Simply put, honest living prevents the need to lie, which in turn prevents any negative consequences which may result from lies. On the flip side of the coin, lying has negative consequences. A concrete example is legality. Fraud and perjury can carry heavy penalties. Theft and piracy could also be considered under this umbrella of deceitful behavior. A more abstract example is the amount of mental strain involved in perpetuating a lie. To tell a lie is a simple, fleeting act. To maintain that lie can be a struggle. One must remember what the lie was and who it was told to in order to never utter a statement that contradicts the lie to that person for the rest of their life. This process becomes compounded for each and every lie told. A single lie may require several more lies in order to maintain the first. The life of a liar must be exhausting. The long-term advantages of honesty outweigh the short-term gains of lying. Whether it be to yourself or to others, lying is never a wise act. I owe all of my success to living honestly. All right, so now we have that out of the way, let's pick it apart a little bit. One thing, just to kind of sum it up, is if you know something's wrong, and if you were that you're about to take an action, and if you know in your mind that if someone was to confront you about that action, and that you would be compelled to lie about what it was that you did, you shouldn't be doing that. This is kind of like a very obvious baseline kind of morality thing here, but like, why would you partake in something that you would need to cover up? I have a hard time wrapping my head around like the motivation behind that. Anyhow, a couple of critiques that I had, like as I mentioned, I had written that quite some time ago, and I'm not perfect, and I disagree with some of how it was written. I think certain parts could have been better, and I did consider like, oh, well, why don't we just rewrite the whole thing and then present the finished product. That's not what we're doing here. We're taking a dive into thought, and this is an illustration of you could have had an idea or done something in the past, and you grow and change, and now whenever you look back upon it, you think about it differently. And so we're going to touch on a couple of those points. In the first paragraph, I make a rather cynical and blanket statement covering the totality of morality. And that's not fair. I'm sure there's plenty of moralities out there that are functional, have solid ground upon which they're based. It's not something that I've studied extensively, so for me to just make sweeping claims that the best ones are arbitrary, that's not good enough. we got to try harder here. And the second paragraph, I butcher discussion of like that nature or existence appears to abide by scientific laws. That's not how that works at all. We have reality that we experience, and then we use science to explain it and make predictions. Like, reality doesn't bend itself to science. It's the other way around, that we use science to describe reality. So had that backwards, and also not using the word causality, because that's like what I was talking about. Like, it would have been a lot more concise to wrap up being able to predict your future behavior by our comprehension of causality. So a couple of little nitpicks there on the essay, but there's things that have been left out of the essay. One is an objection I could hear, but Randall, What about people that believe the lies they are telling? That, like, deep inside, that what they think what they're saying is the honest to goodness truth, yet it contradicts reality. Are they lying? Are they not? Or how do we deal with these folks? And that's a tricky topic. I have read one book that discusses that topic. It was The People of the Lie, written by Dr. M. Scott Peck. And in that book, he tries to define, or he takes a stab at defining what a truly evil person is. And he, in his practice as like a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist or therapist, I'm not sure exactly what his role was, but he had encountered a few patients whom would just lie about everything, the most minute thing, large scale things. They seemed incapable of telling the truth about anything. And he had a strong suspicion that those people were truly evil. Now, he doesn't have much data or information about these people because they're resistant to mental health treatment. Like, why would a compulsive liar spend time in therapy? They could just, one, it's not going to be productive, but like two, it would have to be court ordered or something. Like, they wouldn't voluntarily subject themselves to something like that, that it wouldn't serve them any value because it would contradict their way of life too radically in order to, for them to be willing to participate in it. So there's those folks. I don't know. It kind of makes sense in the, like, if you look at it as if, well, lying is good, or no, honesty is good. Let's get that straight. Honesty is good, and lying is evil. Like, if they are opposed to one another. So, I don't know. That's about all I got for heading down that road. But one other omission that I wanted to touch on here is, are there situations where lying is good? And I was able to come up with a couple of hypothetical situations in which lying's good, but they seem to be the exception. Like, let's take one, for example. Let's say you were trying to flee a country where you're being oppressed and, seeking asylum in other countries. And in your effort to escape, you're stopped, and you would need to lie. Like, if they ask you where you're going or what you're doing or who you are or whatever, and you would need to lie in that situation to avoid imprisonment and or death, I could see that as an acceptable situation where you would want to lie. And I'm sure you can construct other scenarios in which lying would seem to be acceptable. But I think those situations would kind of need to be characterized by your capacity to have a moral compass. That, like, it's almost a no-brainer that if you're required to lie in order to preserve your life, I could also see situations where it would go the other way, where it would be more important to remain honorable and accept death instead of lying. But, like, I don't know, we're getting into the weeds there. Like, what the point that I was making in the essay is, just tell the truth. Like, it's not that hard. And once you get used to doing it, like, the pieces just fall into place. Like, there's no emotional strain on you whenever you behave honestly. And it would just be wonderful if this could be embraced wholesale. Now, one part that I was kind of on the fence about including here, so I'm going to throw it in as a bonus at the end for those who stuck around this long. Let me gather a thought here. Oh, okay. So, if you believe in a God and you engage in prayer, as an experiment, pray to your God and request that God facilitates society and civilization across the board to be more honest. I think that some people are too weak to do it, and that the assistance of a higher power could give them the little nudge that they need to be more honest in their daily living and transactions. Now, for those of you who do not believe in a God, do a thought experiment, or you could do a thought experiment where think about what the consequences would be if people were unable to lie. Kind of like Jim Carrey in the movie Liar Liar. Like if people were no longer physically capable of lying, would that cause society to halt so quickly that all of our necks would collectively snap on account of the reverberation of that? It would just be like everything hitting a brick wall, where I feel like the higher you climb in society, the more deceitful your actions become. And it would just think about, like, I mean, if you're an honest person, just think about how funny it would be to watch, politicians and big time businessmen and all that, like lawyers, whoever, they had to tell the truth. That would be fucking funny. Jim Carrey proved it, I don't know. That's all I got for this episode. Sorry for getting a little weird at the end there, but that's what we're doing. Thank you for joining me, and forgot the closing. We're going to treat you like a sovereign individual, and I'd like you to do what thou wilt.